Yeah, it's kind of sad when the most productive thing you've done this week is sit around and mope and just pray to God that the Giants play better this weekend. So let's knock this question and answer video out of here. First of all, thank you to everybody who sent me questions. I plan on doing these maybe once a month or as long as people send me questions. So continue to send questions. I'll get to them as soon as possible whenever I do these vids. So yeah, let's get to these questions. Take those off. Make myself look smarter. Here we go. Okay, Azra Extreme, and I apologize if I mispronounce any of these. Azra Extreme wants to know, he sent in a few questions. Besides WWE and TNA, do you watch any other independent federations? Very little, mainly because I don't have the time and the material just isn't readily available like WWE and TNA are. And even Ring of Honor, I don't get HDNet, so I just have to check it whenever I can on YouTube. But I do enjoy watching the independents because I think that's where the future of wrestling comes from, and it's cool to see, pick out young talents and go, oh, that guy has potential, or oh, I'd like to see him on a mainstream level, or oh, he sucks, he needs some work. But it is fun to watch. I just wish I had more time to watch as much of it as I could. In your opinion, what was the WWE's last good year? Well, this is going back a ways, but I thought WWE was amazing in 2000. But I started to see dents in the armor towards the end of the year. They blew two major storylines at the end of the year. That was the Triple H, Kurt Angle, and Stephanie love triangle, and the Who Ran Over Stone Cold Steve Austin storyline. They blew both of those, and I could talk ad nauseum about how they blew those storylines, but it was kind of disheartening to see two major storylines get blown that badly. But it was still like, okay, it's the WWE. Or WWF at the time, they made a mistake, and they moved on. But going into 2001, and then 2002, 2003, there was kind of this trickle-down effect where the show became watered down more and more as the years went on. There have been periods where it's been great. Like, I thought Raw in 2004 was amazing. I thought SmackDown last summer was amazing. I thought SmackDown in 2005 was really good. That's kind of the underrated period of SmackDown, I think. But they haven't really had a sustained, consistent level of goodness pretty much since the Attitude Era. And that's my opinion. Okay, what are your top 10 favorite finishers of all time? Well, I'm not going to list 10 for the sake of time, but I will say that my favorite finishers are the ones that are kind of like the Stone Cold Stunner. That snap, boom, and it's over. They come out of nowhere. Just quick, boom, and then they get the pin 1, 2, 3. Jake Roberts' DDT is like that. If I had to pick a number one favorite, it would probably be the Diamond Cutter or the RKO, because it's just amazing how DDP was able to hit that move out of anywhere. I remember when he countered the jackhammer into the Diamond Cutter, and I thought that was just amazing. And Randy Orton has done the same thing, where he tries to come up with new ways to hit the RKO. And it's just a really cool move. And those are the type of finishers I like. Okay. Did you like Toy Story 3? Very much so. And we're going to tie this into wrestling. Pixar, to me, they are the best filmmakers in Hollywood. And I think I said that in my first video. And they don't make movies for kids. They make movies for everybody. And I wish that's the approach the WWE would take when doing this whole PG direction. It's like, yeah, you can be PG, but it'd be nice if your show was intelligently written. And Toy Story 3, in my opinion, I haven't seen Inception, and I heard Inception was amazing, but I think Toy Story 3 is the movie of the year. Best movie I've seen this year, without question. And Pixar deserves every bit of praise they get for it. And if they don't get a Best Picture nomination, I'll be shocked. So, let's take a look. Okay, Ronnie V1 wants to know your thoughts on how the current WWE pay-per-views compare to the shows of 2002 to 2006, which were stacked cards even on the single brand pay-per-views. Do you blame the lack of interest on the product on the company's poor ability to push young stars to make them more believable to the new audiences? First of all, like I said, the last really great year in the WWE was 2000. So I don't think I could go through 2002 to 2006 and find pay-per-views that I didn't think were very good. I thought Royal Rumble 2006 is one of the worst pay-per-views I've ever seen. Like, it's December to December bad. Well, maybe not that bad, but it's pretty close. And as for the question of the lack of ability to build young stars correctly, I think it's just the way they present their show. I mean, that's part of it, them not building up their young stars right. But I think it's just the way they present their shows. I was talking to my good buddy, Eric Clancy, and he said, look, you watch the show, the banter isn't even good because it's so overly scripted and so poorly executed that these promos that are supposed to build interest in the feud aren't even that good. So why would I want to see the match? And it's just the overall creative process and the overall creative direction of the company that's leading to these pay-per-views being uninteresting. At Hell in a Cell, we've got Randy Orton and Sheamus in a Hell in a Cell match. Now, if they had built that match up for a long time and built real animosity between them, it might work. But this feud doesn't warrant a Hell in a Cell match. It just seems like something that they threw together for the sake of a gimmick pay-per-view. Again, it's all a matter of execution and presentation, and that's just not there right now. Big Wrath 310. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. When did you start watching wrestling, and who or what got you interested in it the most? I started watching late 80s, early 90s. Hulk Hogan was a big favorite of mine as a kid, but I liked a lot of the stars around that time period. I liked Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Jake Roberts, and it was the WWF that I was exposed to early on. And then I got a wrestling magazine. My mother gave me a wrestling magazine, and it had Sting on the cover. I'm like, well, who's this guy? And not only, that magazine let me know that there are other wrestling federations out there, and I really wanted to see this Sting guy because there were pictures of him in the magazine fighting with Vader. And I was like, man, this looks awesome. So from there, I found out about WCW. And yeah, it was great. Well, Sting and Vader were great. WCW was not at the time, but Sting and Vader, their stuff was really good. So those were some of the big names that really got me hooked in. Undertaker was another one. The Rockers, the Hart Foundation, Demolition, the Road Warriors. A lot of those old 80s and 90s stars. Bret Hart became a favorite. So it was just, I was just enthralled by what was being presented at the time. Okay, if you could name a show and a year that you thought was the peak of wrestling, what would it be? It's hard to say because I would say WCW was at its best in '97, but WWF was better, was at its best in like '98 and 2000. So it's really hard to pick just one. Like one year. If I had to pick a favorite year, it would probably be 1997 because, like I said, WCW was amazing at the time, and that was the creative peak of the company. And WWF they were in a rebuilding phase, but they were just starting to find things that clicked. They were finally pushing Steve Austin in a really meaningful way. DX was coming along. Bret Hart became really interesting when he went his whole anti-American route. So WWF 97 was really coming along and really turning into something really good. And WCW was already amazing with the NWO and especially the Hogan Sting feud. That stuff was great. Okay, Gold Standard 000. If you could push one wrestler to the main event over the course of a year, who would it be? Well, I would have said, last year I would have said John Morrison, but WWE kind of screwed that up. Because apparently rock stars need to be smiling idiots. That's their take. He looks like a rock star, yet he needs to give his glasses to little kids and be a nice guy. Yeah, whatever. But I guess if I had to pick one with TNA, it'd probably be the Pope. I see a lot of potential in him, and I think he's somebody that TNA should put a lot of effort into. They haven't really... They kind of did with the tournament, but he hasn't really had a sustained push, and he's somebody that I would like to see pushed over the course of a long period of time with an ultimate payoff of him winning the title. Of course, this recent heel turn isn't going to do him any favors. Okay, Daily X-Man, I guess. I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing these, but out of the wrestlers released in the past few years, who do you think the WWE shouldn't have let go of? This one is a tough one to answer because normally when the WWE lets somebody go, they've been devalued to such a level that losing them isn't really that big of a deal. Like, I was really high on Carlito in 2005, but they just screwed him up so badly that by the time he was let go, it was like, who cares? And that's a lot of their releases are like that. I can't remember them releasing anybody who was red hot. Even Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Anderson, he'd been hurt and gone so many times that by the time he was let go, it's like, well, he wasn't really paying off anyway. So it's really hard to pick one. Normally because by the time, like I said, by the time they let him go, they're devalued anyway. I guess, I don't know, Shelton Benjamin, I guess. Just because at the very least, and yeah, he was another one who had been just devalued to such a low level that he wasn't even a fixture on the show anymore. But he's such a great athlete that he can make anybody look good. So I think he would have been worth keeping around. So yeah, I'll just say Shelton. All right, and final questions coming in from Sabu TNA Forever. Which divas and or knockouts needs to stop acting like she knows how to wrestle? Oh God, just one. There are quite a few. Lay Cool comes to mind. Kelly comes to mind. Alicia Fox. Alicia Fox is gonna kill somebody. She's so awkward and dangerous looking. She's just, like I keep waiting for her to kill somebody. God, who else? Rosa Mendez. TNA, the big one is Lacey Von Erich. She is horrible. Somebody was telling me the other day, it's like, oh, but she's gotten better. It's, well, yeah. In the same sense that before she was a car wreck that took lives, now she's just a fender bender that still requires you to go to the emergency room to get checked out. I mean, she's still bad, just not as bad as she was a year ago. So, yeah, a lot of the knockouts in the women divas are not very good at all. Guerrero or Benoit, who is the better wrestler? Oh, God. First of all, let me just say this right now. I'm not one of the ones that glorifies Chris Benoit. I think the man is a fucking disgrace. He murdered his family. I'm sorry. I know there are a lot of tribute videos out there for him, but I'm not one of the ones that's like, oh, I miss you, Chris. It's like, no, I'm just upset that the bastard took his family with him and that he took the coward's way out by killing himself and not facing the music for his actions. I think... I fucking hate Chris Benoit. Let me just say that right now. But as a talent, he was one of the best wrestlers of all time. I don't think that can be denied. Eddie was very good, too. They were trying to pick a favorite out of those two as far as their body of work is very difficult. I tend to lean, and I hate to say it, but I tend to lean more towards Benoit and who the better talent was. But both were very good. But obviously in 2010, I think a little bit higher of Eddie Guerrero than I do Chris Benoit. Piece of crap. If I die and go to hell and Chris Benoit's not there, I'm going to be very, very pissed off. I'll say that. And final question, what was your favorite wrestling game? Well, I'm kind of an old school gamer. I don't have the new Xbox. I just got the Wii a couple months ago. So I tend to like some of the more old school games. N64. I love a lot of the THQ AKI games. WCW NWO Revenge, WCW NWO versus the World, or whatever that was. That was the first one. WrestleMania 2000, and my favorite, No Mercy. That game was amazing. I can still play those games and still be entertained by them. They were just very good. I liked the mechanics. I liked the way everything was set up, and I wish more wrestling games were like that. I'm not a big fan of the SmackDown games. They're very button mashy and arcadey, for lack of a better word. Yeah, I've just never really been a big fan of the SmackDown games. Now, two games that I thought were very underrated, the Day of Reckoning games. Personal opinion, I think since No Mercy, I think those two games are the closest we've had to having No Mercy back. Those games were great. I thought the story modes were they were creative, I'll say that, especially for Day of Reckoning 2, where they stole the belt and WrestleMania had to be canceled one year because there was no main event. It was, excuse me. If it were done on television, it would suck, but for a video game, it was pretty interesting. WrestleMania 19 had an interesting story mode too, where you're throwing construction workers off of off of scaffolds and destroying a shopping mall. When do I get to wrestle? But yeah, the Day of Reckoning games are on GameCube. I thought were very good and kind of flew under the radar, unfortunately. So yeah,